Why is Project Liberty and your consortium the right owners if indeed ByteDance says it will divest?
Yeah, hi, Carolyn. How are you?
Good. I'm good.
Good. I think we're the right buyers because we have put all the pieces together. We have the funding. We've worked through all the legal issues. We put a formal offer, as you point out, right in front of ByteDance, so they have something now to react to. And most importantly, we have the clean American tech stack to move the user base over to, and we don't need or want the Chinese algorithm. And so I think that the algorithm is something that China is very, very beholden to, and has said clearly that they're not going to be selling it. We don't need it or want it, as I point out. So I think we're a particularly unique bidder and well positioned. And I think, as a matter of fact, we are the leading bidder right now.
We were just seeing some of the share price reactions of rivals out there. From your reading into what's happening in Washington right now, does it look to be going in the favor you'd want to see? Because would you actually like a delay to proceedings to be able to go forward with a bid? Well,
we'd like to buy U.S. TikTok. That's what we'd like to see as an end result, and move the user base over to this clean American stack. And I think that it's no surprise that the argument is going well for the government, because this is a real national security issue, a strongly bipartisan piece of legislation that was passed by Congress, upheld by the appellate court. So I think the conventional wisdom is that the government's position will be upheld, the legislation will stay in effect, which means on January 19th, ByteDance has to decide, are they going to shut it down or sell? And in order to sell, they need to enter into an agreement, which is why we put a formal offer in front of them in the last 24 hours.
What is the price tag of that formal offer?
So what we've said to ByteDance is we're not going to be talking about terms of the deal until we get into a formal conversation with them. And we want to be very, very respectful of ByteDance because it's a very sensitive time here. We know they're arguing in front of the Supreme Court. We've given them space to do that. And at the point in time where we engage in an active negotiation, we'll be happy to share details once we sort things with them.
Have you spoken to any of the current investors in ByteDance who are United States-based, General Atlantic, Susquehanna? We've also know that Sequoia's involved, KKR, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, there are, and I believe we've spoken to all of them, and they've indicated an interest in rolling over their investment. Why not? I mean, they don't want to lose their entire investment in U.S. TikTok. We've put a real proposal forward, which gives them value for U.S. TikTok. Having said that, they too are waiting to see what ByteDance decides to do before committing.
I'm really interested in the fact that investors are interested in rolling over. What value will you accrete for the business going forward? Because you want, as you've articulated, a totally different tech stack. How will that change the use of TikTok? How will you monetize it as well? Because you want a different form of social media. You don't want us as content for the ultimate users and being advertised against.
Yeah, well, there'll be advertising on the new TikTok, let's call it TikTok 2.0. But we see an intranet evolving where, rather than an attention economy, meaning algorithms designed to keep us addicted and online in a very unhealthy fashion, why not an intention economy where we just let people know we're interested in buying something or reading something or information on something, and then we get that from the business or the advertiser. And inference is much less valuable than intention. So rather than have algorithms that surveil us, scrape our data, and then guess that we might want something, why not you and I just be very clear, verify that we're a human being and be very clear about what we want, and then receive it on the internet. We have technology available now that didn't exist 25 years ago that enables you and I to actually control our identity, our data, and our relationships. So let's put people in charge of their data. Our data is very valuable, as it turns out.
I mean, and that's why so much value has been accrued on a private market basis, at least to ByteDance and to TikTok. But ultimately, by not making these things quote unquote addictive, do you lose some of that value? And is that the right compromise here?
Well, there are other factors here, right? In the case of this Supreme Court hearing and the legislation that's being discussed, there are national security risks. Yes. There's also issues around safety to children. There are issues about a viability of our democratic system with such polarization. So the algorithms may be powerful. That doesn't mean that they're good or constructive. We just have an internet technology that's evolved into one that's attention-based, which means these platforms scrape our data, they aggregate it, and to do that, they're actually surveilling us, right? And then they profile us. And this is the problem with what's going on with TikTok, because it's not only the surveillance and the information on 170 million people, it's that ByteDance can then provide what they want to feed to the 170 million people. So it's an influence device as well. So I think we're all learning together that the current architecture, which takes advantage of people, is not the best architecture. It's leading to some very poor outcomes. Yeah. This is just engineering. It can be designed differently to work differently. We can get all the benefits we get from internet technology without the harms. And it's interesting that this TikTok problem could actually be the way forward to a much bigger solution to having an internet that's much healthier for all of us.
How has that got ramifications on Meta, on Snap, which on the day are doing well because people feel, okay, if TikTok loses this argument, it's out, and then the viewers, the followers, the users just go to these other rival platforms, the money, the advertising money goes to these rival platforms. Why are analysts like Morgan Stanley that have pointed this out not saying there's a legitimate bid here and we think this could be a whole new dawn future for social media? Why are people not taking that seriously?
I think they'll begin to now. I think that ByteDance has been playing out their legal strategy, and it's coming to an end.
Has it been a good legal strategy from your perspective?
Sorry?
Has it been a good legal strategy from your perspective?
From the vantage point of looking at the legislation and how it was passed, strong bipartisan legislation, and the real national security risks, I think that the ByteDance pursuit of a legal strategy was an uphill battle from the very beginning. And I think, as I say, it's coming to an end. Now that path is closing down on them, now they're confronted with January 19th. So we're talking about 9 days, and something has to give. So either it's going to be shut down, or there'll be a transaction. That's why we put a formal offer in place, so there's enough time for them to process that. And we hope they do, because we want to see TikTok stay alive. We want to see it lit up. We don't want to see it banned or shut down, just like President-elect Trump does not.
Can you talk about President-elect Trump and ultimately what January the 20th means for all of this, and the request he's made of the Supreme Court to just delay facts?
Well, I think the legislation will operate. It will be the legislation, and it's a hard and fast date of January 19th. So the timing here is very interesting, isn't it? President Biden will still be president. It doesn't get to President-elect Trump unless the 90-day, the 3-month extension kicks in. So it's a Biden administration decision to extend the time frame for ByteDance and TikTok, and
or the Supreme Court to allow some sort of delay, which many don't think will happen.
Yeah, I'm assuming in answering your question that won't happen. If it does, it's a different ballgame. I understand that. But when you step back and think about this, why wouldn't ByteDance accept an offer if it doesn't include the algorithm? They win. President Trump wins because it's not banned. The shareholders that you mentioned win. They get value as opposed to getting nothing for U.S. TikTok. U.S. citizens win because our clean stack will protect them. The national security risk is gone. And of course, TikTok users win because the app stays in business.
Why aren't there competing bids?
The legislation requires that you have a clean stack, that this be independent of ByteDance's technology. That's not an easy thing to do. If we hadn't been working on the technology and invested $500 million over the last 5 years, we wouldn't be in a position to bid. It's very serendipitous in a way that the work that Project Liberty has been doing to reimagine how the internet works just so happens to be right place, right time to actually be the winning bidder for TikTok, keep the app going, move the user base to a clean stack, and at the same time, demonstrate to people that there's another version of the internet where they're in charge of themselves. They own their data. They own their relationships. They can get value for it. They can parse out and permission its use, as opposed to being surveilled and having the data be in the hands of someone else who's deciding what to feed them, what to tell them.
Briefly, next steps for you. You've kindly given us your time today, but what happens after the arguments finish at the Supreme Court?
I think we're all anxiously awaiting the Supreme Court to make their decision. And then we'll look forward to a conversation with ByteDance and see if we can get something completed prior to the 19th so that the Biden administration can grant the 3-month extension.